Namaste, sir.
Namaskar.
Thank you so much for joining me today on our podcast.
My pleasure.
Great to have you, sir. Sir, you have wealth of experience. Where did you start? How was your childhood? What kind of education you started with?
I studied in All Saints High School, Hyderabad. Then went on to Usmania University. I did a master's degree in nuclear physics. And like most students, I dabbled in all the things that they do: elocution competition, essay writing, quiz. We also started one K circle for most. It started off for people who are appearing for examinations for jobs. And that is right now there after 50 years also. Still works. Conducts even international quiz competitions. That is one thing that a institution which we started 50 years back still runs. Then was interested in cricket, of course, right from the start. Then another interest that I had was in photography. I was the head of the photography association in All Saints High School in those days. Then went on to do physics, nuclear physics.
So, if I were to ask why nuclear physics, what was your.
Um, most of us study according to our wishes, and if our parents said, "Don't stop us," then we continue with it. So I was somewhat interested in nuclear physics with this things like you hear of Albert Einstein, Niels Bohr, this and that. And so I thought, let me also dabble in this, and went on to join. There is a new department that was opened in Usman University in those days, so I took up that.
Right.
Yeah.
And then thereafter, how did you shift to banking sector?
Yeah. Then by the time we finished off in 1974, we had Baba Atomic Research Center. I applied for a job. Then I also applied for a full page ad of State Bank of India to attract people, I guess. So I applied for that. So these two things came more or less at the same time. And then when I inquired about the job content after the interview in BRC, they told me that it's mostly sort of lab based. That you're not going to deal with the public, and you're going to deal with your own team and your own people, and all the time you're only inside. So that was something that I didn't like it much. So when the State Bank job came and I inquired about what kind of a job it is, then the way they explained to me, I thought, look, this is a light job that I want to do, where there is a public contact on a daily basis. So when the offers came, I had to decline one, join State Bank of India.
So, what was your kind of attraction towards the public interaction? Why would you take so much interest in public interaction?
One, there's no dull moment. And when you get up in the morning, you don't know what's going to happen in the office. Could be like my wife is also a banker. We joke about this, saying that आज teller पे कौन बैठेगा? Who's going to sit on teller because that was the toughest job. People would not like to sit there. And which customer will complain about what we don't know? Which customer would ask for what we don't know? Some customer would come and say that your interest rates are very low. Some customers would say your interest rates are very high for loans. So on a daily basis, you meet about half a dozen new people. If you have a customer base of, say, an ordinary branch of 10 to 20,000, you keep meeting new people, new experiences. They come and tell you what their lives are like. And like, for example, one of the most interesting things that I can recall is when the manager of a personal section, we had one person who came to the branch, stood in front of me and said, my name is so-and-so and all that, and what is my bank balance? So we told him those days in lakhs. And I saw him, I said, hey, sit down, come on, sit down. Then he said, no, I'll sit down. And he sat down on the floor. I told him, no, don't sit down on the floor. Come on, sit here. No, I won't sit there. So when I told him, why? He said, no, I work in Dubai. In Telugu, it sounds very nice. నేను రాళ్ళు కొడతాను ద్వారా. I break stones and live there in Dubai. I save all my money and put in this NRI account. So he's not used to sitting in the chair. Because he says he had never been offered a chair in Dubai. There we go. That's how life is.
And then in the banking sector, you moved across many different divisions within like India, or you were just straight away gone to foreign services?
No, when you join in the State Bank of India, you're made to go through different departments and segments. So I was in personal department first, recruitment division. Then we came to personal deposits, manager personal deposits. Then I went back to computers for some time. then head of a branch, then head of an industrial finance branch later on, and then back to MIS. Then I was the head of a zonal office in Chhattisgarh. Then came to London as a regional head. And this was across, of course, I was in Bengal, Orissa. I was in Maharashtra, Bombay. Then Gujarat again, Baroda. And last posting in India was in Chhattisgarh, Raipur. And then London. So you are made to travel different zones, different banking segments. So that you have all-round exposure as you go higher up in the ladder.
Right. And then you perhaps get elevated to foreign service. Is that the way it works?
Yeah, I was here for 3 years, 2002 to 2005. Then after that, my son was the wrong class. If he went back, he had to write 10th class exam. And here he had to write this 11th class GCSE. Then I knew that if you took him back and asked him to write the examination in Hindi, he'll write once, twice, thrice, and then say, look, I'm not going to get through this in my life. So I decided, of course, awful decision to make, I guess. But the right decision, looking back. I stayed back in India, in UK itself.
Right. And you also did a master's degree in banking or some other degree in the banking as well?
Oh, yeah, right. Another interesting story that I narrate to people. Nowadays, people will find it difficult to believe it. When I was doing personal deposits, I found that you have to read Economic Times, Financial Express, because customers talk to you about something or other. And when I started reading Economic Times, Financial Express in India, I didn't follow them at all. So I said, look, I must get a degree in finance. So the Jamnalal Bajaj, they advertised at the right time. So I joined in that, went through 3 years evening courses. Pretty tough if you ask me, because 4 days, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, they make you sit for 3 hours after your class up, after your office work. Then Saturday and Sunday, about 4.5, 6 hours. So entire life for 3 years is blocked. But it was good, very useful, stood me in good stead, enabled me to at least speak to people in a manner that they understood me and I understood them.
And then when you were in the UK, you decided to kind of stay after the initial assignment. So what did you end up doing after that?
Then I joined HSBC. They were the South Asian banking. I was a relationship director. I was with them for about 10 years, up to 2016. Then after that, I was 65. Then it was the right time to retire. After that, next I joined this bank in West Indies, Caribbeans. One of our friends was starting a new bank along with a Chinese investor. So they asked me if I would like to be CEO. I said, why not? So he took me off to St. Kitts and Nevis. Then we started a bank there. The bank is still on. After 7 years, it's doing fairly well.
And what kind of banking does it offers?
Oh, it's a basically single product banking for ordinary customers, just deposits. And for others, we are now offering asset custody. Yeah.
Wish you all the best with that, sir. So moving on from these career graph and all the professional qualifications you had, I'm more curious to understand you are part of your local council in some capacity and you're working with them in some capacity. Would you like to explain what exactly do you do and what exactly a councillor's role is in?
That's an interesting question. When we were in State Bank of India, of course, you could not be a part of any party. You should not either Congress, BJP, or anything of that sort. So when we came to the UK, and then after went and shifted to HSBC, we were told that we should not join any party because you might discriminate against a particular customer because he supports some other party. So while I didn't join any party then, we used to support one person of Indian origin for becoming an MP. He succeeded. So we used to go and canvass for him again and again. And after some time after I took retirement, then I went on to Labour Party meetings and all that. So one day suddenly they popped up the question. I didn't have anything in mind like this. That would you like to become a councillor? And one of the things that made me actually become say yes, was the fact that one of my neighbors lost a bin on top of a black bin cover on top of a bin. So I went and asked the council. The neighbor wants it. Oh, he said he'll get it after some 3 weeks, 4 weeks. The usual answer. So then when it was coming out, it struck me that, look, if I was a councillor here, I could have got it to him just like that. So then when this man asked me, I said yes. That was about 6 years back. This is my second term. I'm now in Hartsmere Borough Council. Very good job, and you're in a position to help people. You interact with people. You understand their concerns. If you have any local issues, you can sort them out. And like some people say, you're the local MP because you are the only uh, politician that they meet. Ordinary MP is too big because he represents 100,000 people. There's no way that they can meet him. Probably they'll have a minute or two. But all their issues, personal issues, have to be sorted out by you.
So, what are their kind of key issues which usually you come across with?
Key issues are planning. It could be even potholes. Schools, especially when they have children with autism, disabilities. Could be problems with the neighbors. Sometimes neighbors become very noisy, and somebody has to stop that happening. Like the other day, we went and found that one of the fellows he had got the incendiary inclination. He just used to set fire, and he set fire to his whole flat, and the neighbor got really worried. Luckily, the fire, of course, got put off. But when these things, these issues keep coming, like parking is one issue in this country. Not much of a problem in central London, but outside London, it's a huge issue. So,
That's great, sir. Thank you. And then, apart from council responsibilities and then the like social work, are you also involved in a lot of community-related associations? I remember you were doing something with the cricket, something with the Telugu community. Would you like to highlight any of those?
yeah, thank you. Fond of cricket. Then one day we went to see a match between India and England. India won, and when I met the captain Mithali Raj, and she said, "Look, you are the only Indian here. How did you happen to come here?" So I said, when I got up in the morning, I thought you will win. So she said that makes two of us. I also thought we will win. Then she saw me having a big camera, so Canon 5D MK4. So then she said that such a big camera, you must take a lot of photographs. So yeah, where do you post them? Facebook. Then he said, why don't you start one page for us, Indian women's cricket? I said, yeah, very good idea, because nobody in those days had a Facebook page at all for women's cricket. So I started off that. That Facebook page currently has 87,000 members. Members who can post whatever they want to. Of course, I have to give them permission to post. But they can ask me for posting a permit, it comes on the Facebook page. So a lot of people do on a daily basis send their posts. And it also helps to generate a good growth of women's cricket. Now, if you want to get Indian women are coming to play with the English in Lords shortly in July. Tickets are not available. If you can believe it, when we were in St. John's Wood and State Bank, the same street as Lords, the matches were free. You just have anybody who wanted to go could go, and there used to be hardly about 1,000 or 2,000 people. Especially for the women's cricket. So I do go for men's cricket, but not too often because you can as well see it on the TV. We also do one more thing apart from photography. I have one Facebook page of my own. When I go for events, take 100 photographs in somebody else's event, of course. I do put them up on Facebook so that people can look at them. We also conduct another community project of singers, poets, and saints, right from say 500 years, 600 years. Now, a lot of people do dance, children, youngsters. The much older ones, of course, would know who wrote the particular poem that they're dancing, composition as such. But the youngsters, if you ask them who wrote it, they wouldn't know. Of course, the whole idea started from that. But as a homage to poets and faint poets for that matter, composers, we hold a program at least now every 6 months. We have held about 17 of them so far. Or this is after retirement. So in the last 10 years, 17. Started off with MS Subalakshmi on her 100th birthday on the place she sang in London on her day, on that day itself, which I was told later on by somebody in their family that we were the only ones in the whole world who celebrated a birthday on that day, because others would have gone to the nearest Saturday, Sunday. So that's a very fulfilling one. We conducted in a temple. roughly about 3 to 400 people come. It's a good thing, and at least about 20, 25 items are there. Goes on for about 3 hours. But a good experience for, and also good source of strength for the dance teachers and for the students.
It's a great cultural initiative.
Yeah.
I think you're passing on the legacy to the next generation.
Exactly, yeah.
I really like that. That's really good. And I think
Thank you.
people like the poems and everything, but they don't remember who's the poet.
Who wrote it? Yeah, correct,
Exactly.
yeah.
So it's a great homage. So tell me more. What else in your kind of social activity? What else is happening?
Well, like I said, the photography is one. Solving the problems of these people. I also look after one hotel group. Mostly they're planning issues or how to go about it, whether they should take asylum seekers or not. Sometimes whether they're fraud, what to do about it. I also write articles on frauds. I have a Lord Eldington Banking Research Fellowship, and my subject was financial frauds. And one gentleman who was the biggest fraudster, he was the biggest um fraudster or the bankrupt person in 1985, UK based, of course. I don't want to take his name unnecessarily. Here in Indian, but you are the highest bankrupt person at that point of time.
Would you like to give that story? What exactly the story was?
I know. I read that story in 85. This Lord Eldington Banking Research Fellowship was started in the name of Lord Eldington, whose son is still there in the House of Lords. He was the chairman of Grindlays Bank. He retired as the chairman of Grindlays Bank, and when they retired, like in India, when some senior man retires, people want to give him a gift. So they collected money all over the place, gave him a gift. So this gentleman said, "What's the point in giving me this money? You establish a fellowship so that an Indian person comes here from India to UK and Europe and does a thesis on a subject of his choice."
May I ask why was he choosing India only?
This was offered to him in India, and Grindlays Bank was fairly big in India. Yeah, the Indian bank officers offered to him. So that was probably, I think, 1978 it was there. So I went in 86 and got selected. But the reason for selecting frauds as a subject, like people ask me, because people have done on marketing, people have done on different deposits. Some people who had a treasury background did on treasury derivatives and treasury instruments. And I took up this particular thing. I was here for 3 months in UK in 86 and went off to Scotland Yard, Metropolitan Police. And well, if you want to know some interesting things about it, well and good. So on the last day when they dropped me from Scotland Yard, I said, "Look, I've never gone in a car with whirring lights and noise." They said, "Look, we can't do it all the way from our office, but when we turn into your house, this place where you're staying, we'll do it." And everybody came out to see me getting out of a vehicle with a lot of noise. And another thing that happened, I wanted to see Old Bailey. So naturally, they had to give me a Scotland Yard inspector. So the inspector came along with me, and both of us sat next to each other. In those days, the conductors used to give tickets after you sat, unlike the present system. So the conductor came, and this man showed his pass over. And then he looked at me and said, and smiled at me and went off. I said, "He didn't ask me for a ticket." I said, "Look, you're coming with me. So he knows who you are, that you're a criminal." So that's why he didn't ask you for the ticket. So things go on like this. And I do write articles now. Some of them do get published in magazines, websites, college magazines as such. Sometimes they do give talks on them. On yeah, when the college students want it, on a particular person or on a general thing, like how are frauds in cryptocurrencies say different from for ordinary financial scams. They think like this.
Okay, maybe that's a question perhaps you can answer here as well. It's a great question, actually.
According to me, they are practically the same, or because this is more of an evolution of frauds. Whereas when they've evolved a new method of payment, a new digital currency, they have not come up with any new scheme for fraud. So people disappear suddenly. That's what even the old fraudsters have done. Made money in one city, ran away to some other place or some other country, or got a new name, or tried to change their face, how they look. It's the same thing even now in terms of micro cryptocurrencies. So the system of fraud has not changed much. While one thing, of course, is always there, the fraudster is always ahead of the police. You find him, you capture one system and say, look, tell all the bankers, be careful. Tomorrow the fraudster will come with something new. In case you want to know how things were loose even in UK, way back in 1986 when I was here, you could go to a bank and show your certificate, your vaccination certificate given by the NHS, which tells you your name and all that, and show it in the bank and say, I'm so and so, and open an account, savings or current account, whatever. From there, we have come a long way, where it takes about 15 days to 1 month to open your personal account. And so much of information is dug up. People have to go back to LexisNexis. They take your photograph even now. So things have been tightened up, but every now and then you have more and more scams. Banks are losing billions in scams even in UK. Yeah. Simple scams is about a billion. Total number of money lost in scams in UK is 4 billion.
And which one of the category is the kind of highest category of the scam? Is there any example, like, I don't know, like credit card fraud, or I don't know what kind of.
Highest category of scams is still Ponzi schemes. Ponzi scheme where you take the money but don't, you invest in something else and the money is lost. And then you keep on taking money from the new depositors and give the money to the old depositors if they want it.
Let's carry on your fraud expertise, basically. So I'm a bit curious about the person who, obviously you don't have to name the person if you don't want to name him, but I want to know about the story. What was the story which made that person the kind of key person in the fraud spectrum at that time?
Half, not his fault actually. He was dealing with Nigeria and buying sugar and trading with them, supplying whatever material that they wanted, groceries, provisions, building, construction, whatever. And life was fairly okay for him. He was doing very well. He had, I think, overall borrowed about 3 to 400 million from Indian banks. Central Bank of India was there; it got closed. So a lot of other banks also got lost a lot of money, and things were going on very well. Then there was a coup in Nigeria in the 80s, mid 80s, and they restricted the amount of outflow from Nigeria in foreign exchange. So that cut down the amount of money that he could get out of Nigeria for the deliveries that he made. So his cash flow got totally affected. And from there onwards, the number of scams that he committed, like over invoicing, because they had to get some money. So instead of if the total actual cost is 400, he would invoice it as 400 and then get 100 out. Then that was one way. Two, he even invented some new ships that never even stopped in Nigeria. He would invoice, he send invoices for them, bill of lading for them. So not only the port of embarkation, port of disembarkation, port of sometimes the ships didn't exist, sometimes the company didn't exist. In fact, he's supposed to have rewritten the maritime board rules on how to check, what to check when you have invoices like this for trading invoices. Having said that, we having worked in a bank, I can tell you, 75% of money laundering that is done on the basis of these invoices. Really? Yeah. Because money has to move from one bank to another bank. So if you want to make money move from one bank to another bank, there has to be some method and some invoice. Because if a person gets 1 million in his account, the banker is going to ask him, hey, where did you get that 1 million? But if it says, look, I've done some work and you invoice and the money is paid, no questions are asked. And then you have a company at the other end.
Fair enough. So he got into trouble because his money got stuck, and then he could not move it. Then why would they declare him like a fraud person?
No, it total fraud. I mean, ultimately, because he was doing these fraudulent activities in order to cover up the losses, because he has to pay the people from whom he got the supplier. So the supplier has to be paid. I mean, ultimately.
Okay. So, and why was his story was kind of close to your scholarship?
No, his story attracted me because I was in personal banking then. But all the same, this story attracted me, and I wrote we have to submit a sort of thesis to the board, to the Indian Institute of Bankers. So normally about, in those days, 200 people applied for it. 200 bank officers applied for it. So they selected about 12, and they do the interview. They called in 12 people for interview, and the interview is conducted by very senior people. 3 of them were chairman of different banks, and one person is selected.
So you were the one person. And you wrote about this story in your thesis. Is that
This was the thesis.
okay?
This is the background on which I'm doing, and I would like to conduct on financial frauds.
Right.
That's what enabled me to look at original papers in Scotland Yard, in Metropolitan Police.
So I'm a bit curious here. I mean, those days, I think it was 80s, 90s you were doing this research?
85, 86.
85, 86. So there was no internet. There was no like access to information as we have in modern days now, let's
Correct.
say. So how did you manage to get your information?
Newspaper.
Right. Okay.
Yeah.
And were you getting British newspaper coming to India? Or
Oh,
how?
no, Economic Times and all that.
Right. Okay.
Usually Economic Times and Financial Express.
So somewhere there must be some big archive you were trying to access.
Articles and all that, yeah. That's right. Articles from newspapers.
Right.
Yeah.
And you were saving photocopies, or you were like keeping the whole?
No, I don't have them now.
Okay. Okay.
I wish I could. I just have the letter from the Institute of Bankers saying that you got selected. That's it.
That's great. No,
That's worth preserving. I met Lord Ellington when he was here. He gave me lunch. Yeah. By then, of course, he was probably how many, about mid 70s. Yeah.
And then thereon, you carried on your whole career in the banking sector in the fraud-related specialty. Was that?
No.
No. Okay.
I went on to computers because I was there in the UK for about 3 months. Learned things about ATMs and payment systems and all that.
Tell me more about that. How did you manage to learn these things, and did you implement that in India as well?
Yeah. They're like the system was that here in UK, I would go around different banks and spend a month, spend a week in each bank. Say, for example, HSBC 1 week, Barclays 1 week, 1 week, and of course, Grindlays Bank. In each of these departments, mostly fraud related, but at the same time, it also involved a lot of computerization and things like this. Like, remember, even ATMs which are new in not new in UK, ATM came in 67. But people who take photograph, the type of not necessarily algorithms, but display was different. The facilities were different. Services different on ATMs than we had in India at that point of time. And like you go and tell them that in UK they have just one account number. It was new in those days. Or you could you are in London and you could withdraw money from Leicester from your London account. When things which you take for granted, like the way sun rises in the east and sets in the west, these things, if you talk about them about the growth of banking, they would look very surprising at this point of time. So naturally, when you learned all this new, when you go back to India with this experience, they said, look, we better put this fellow in computers, because he had exposure to computers. And by then, I had also finished my master's degree in finance. So this also, which also had computers as one of the subjects. So the combination of the two made me put as a manager at data processing center, and what they used to call very, very covertly as manager mechanization, even though actually we were doing branch computerization.
Right. So you ended up doing a lot of computerization, digital kind of transformation of the banking sector in India. You were perhaps, and which banks you were at the time helping with?
State Bank of India.
Right. Okay. And was State Bank of India was the first bank to bring the ATM in India? Who brought the first ATM in India? Do you remember?
So first was our Grindlays Bank. Grindlays Bank was far ahead of others because they had a lot of branches also. Like we had Citibank, but then they didn't have that many branches. Of course, Barclays and all were not there. HSBC was also there, but not many branches at that point of time, except in the big cities. Grindlays, of course, has been there for a long time. So,
okay, and then digital fraud. What else you ended up kind of revolutionizing in your career?
Revolutionized. One of the things I was asking Siganyam to give me this, I'm really proud of in my life is in 2003, the case of BCCI, the bank, which got wound up in 1991. The State Bank of India had happened to give some loans to them in 1980s, which of course they were paid off by BCCI. But the Deloitte and Touche thought Deloitte and Touche were the liquidators of BCCI. They thought that we were accessory to the fact that we covered up their outstanding loans, non-performing assets. They had a very funny scheme of having one huge account of non-performing assets to which all the debits will be carried to them. Say it went up to say 1 billion by December say 15. They would borrow this 1 billion from other banks, cover it up, make it a credit account so that no auditor goes anywhere near them. So in the month of January, after the audit is over, all the banks used to be paid off. So it was a cover-up operation by BCCI. And they came twice to State Bank of India also. And Deloitte and Touche, in order to recover the money and pay the depositors who were losing money, filed a case against State Bank also. That was $125 million at the time. We're talking about 2003. Like I said, should be about quarter billion now. And then we had to go and argue and tell them, look, we did it in the best of interest. Shows one thing which is shows collusion, which shows oversight, or which somebody ignored something else. They didn't find anything. The judgment was given in our favor. The bank saved about 105 million. And also, we saved the good name of State Bank of India, preserved it. I mean, otherwise, it would have been a black mark for all time to come.
Absolutely. Yeah, no, definitely. I think is a key highlight of your career. That's a great, great achievement. Thank you so much for sharing that. And then, what were the kind of things in your banking career when you were working you thought that they were perhaps, new at the time? Like, for example, digital transition you did, that was new. Fraud studies, obviously, whatever you learned on the fraud you implemented. Anything new you discovered at the time as well?
Well, new things that I introduced now, when you tell them, it looks like, what is this man talking about? Like we had shortage of coins in Chhattisgarh. Shortage of coins is a big thing in India, even now, I'm sure in small places. So I went, we found out one machine which gives you, put a 100 rupee note, you get 100 coin, tuck, 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 tuck. So thanks to Reserve Bank of India, which supplied us coins in those days from Nagpur, I was in Raipur. We established, we installed a machine, and then we told the ministers that we are finance minister, he said, hey, you're not going to inaugurate it, I'll inaugurate it. So the minister came, put in 100 rupee coin, note, and then took out coins. And he was thrilled. And he said, please get this machine in every place. We tried, of course, in about 2-3 places. You can't imagine this at this point of time, but when we had fax machines coming up, people, we used to have very senior people coming, inaugurating them, taking photographs. Now these things are very common. Everybody has a fax machine at home also. We have CCTV, for example. When we had a case of some pickpocketing in the branch, I said, best thing is CCTV. But when the first CCTV that we put up in, I think, Bilaspur in Chhattisgarh, there were objections by the unions that they'll be taking photographs of all the lady. Actually, that's how these things are contrived. So all the lady clerks will be all be photographed and all that the whole day. So there'll be inconvenient for them and all that. Then the police, we controlled the police, the chief, that area, and he came and delivered a talk to all of them, saying that's not how it is. This is how things are to be controlled. He says, I've been in the West. This is how these things happen. The SP of that area. So in this way, wherever I've gone, we had new things all the time. ATMs, for example, we were the first to establish ATMs in Raipur. And like I said, always that was the governor who came and wanted to inaugurate it. I mean, everybody wanted to be a part of the game. So that's why, and that enabled us to take things farther. So by the time I left, I think we had about 20 ATMs. But the fact is that because of the government support, the public also, the union associations could not say anything much about it because everybody was supporting it. I guess that was a part of the game, but it helped a lot.
That's great. So, what are the kind of new frontiers you're looking in the banking and finance sector? What are the key challenges, or maybe, or like something you're excited about?
New challenges, like for example, in our offshore banking, we had to verify whether the person who's opening an account is really the right person or not. Everybody, if you see some of the videos, or if you participate in any of these panel discussions, you would find any one person at least saying that a passport is no good, is a waste of time. Looking at a passport and identifying a person, because you can get always you can fake passports, get your photograph, except the MRZ, the last line that is there. Everything else you can fake. We found a software, of course. I'm sure quite a few offshore banks nowadays use it, of taking a video of the person, and that video, the digital part of it, is scans the passport copy and verifies whether it is the same person or not, at least digitally. The 51 points that you have on your face to identify the person.
So, you do identification based on a software. You don't go cross-referencing with the agencies, right?
This is for the person's identity. There are other things for verifying the person's background, whether he's got any criminal record, whether somebody is wanted in some country. There are other parts of it. The big company called LexisNexis, which gathers the data from all over the world, from different countries. So on a global basis, we verify, because sometimes you get customers who have 5 passports.
Of course. Yeah. Right. No, that's great. And then, what are the kind of things you are more excited about, which is upcoming in your sector or your area of interest?
You have one artificial intelligence that's coming up now. A lot of things which we did not uh, correlate earlier, we are now trying to correlate to see if the person is actually a scamster. Because in the good old days, we used to find that a customer, if his uh, debits or credits are different, inconsistent, then we used to ask him questions now. But we never connected it to people with similar names, people with coming from the same country, things like this. That is what we are doing now at this point of time, to see if there is any connection between this. Of course, our population of accounts is not great. Maybe if the number is 50,000, 100,000, then it makes more sense, or for bigger banks like HSBC. But that's one thing that we are trying out on a smaller scale, to find out if these things really mean anything. Because uh, one scamster, one drug dealer opening an account in a bank, that coming to the notice of Interpol or this financial intelligence unit, could have a detrimental impact on your organization. So we take maximum care about that. The last 7 years, luckily, we never had a single instance. But basically because software and also employee alertness.
That's really great.
Yeah.
And in terms of moving away now from the banking and the kind of expertise area, in your social or the community activities, is there anything you are excited about these days? What's happening? Something new?
In the earlier days when we went, um, events used to be very boring. I must say, even our own event organizers are not doing things just to satisfy the performers, but the audience. They become more user friendly, I could say, to use a common term. That's one thing that has happened. And even in our technical fintech events, or even events when we go for payment systems events, gone are the days when a person would just speak for himself and then finish off with 15 minutes or 1 hour and then say, "Tada, bye bye." He now ensures that you understand what he is talked about. That's a new development that at least I find attending at least about one event in 2 weeks. That's a change, basic change in approach to events as such, and that makes it more interesting for you to attend again and again. Yeah, more engagement. Yeah.
And I think maybe it's because of all the social media and everything, people have, understood the basics, so they don't want to go back to the same thing again and again. Okay, I think that makes sense. Um, I think I've asked most of the questions which I thought could be quite good for at least me or my audience. Um, is there anything you would like to mention? Perhaps something which comes to your mind, which perhaps people should know about you, or something you want to mention. So I want to leave this open for you to kind of say or suggest anything.
As a politician, I would say that people should enter into politics, do leafleting, do canvassing, and also be active. And unless you resist anything that the government wants to do on its own, roughshoding it on people, the things won't change. Especially when it comes to minorities of different types. Could be class, could be caste, could be nationality, could be religion. Any minority, if it does not resist anything, bullying, gaslighting, anything for that matter, things will only become worse over a period of time. If any minority, say Afro Caribbeans, if they look back about their life, the grandparents or great grandparents lived to the life that they are living, it's only because a few people have sacrificed their whole life to enable these people to get what they are getting now. So all of us, when you find any small thing, could be even when you sit in the bus, whether people might not sit next to you for whatever reason. So if that is not resisted, things will become just worse, and even you will be passing on the same type of life to your children and grandchildren. So if you want life to change, society to change, you have to resist and improve.
I think that's a great point, actually.
Thank you.
And I would like to say, I think the new change makers should also try to create new change makers of the future as well. I mean, do you see any such activity happening in maybe political sector? I mean, how the new leaders are getting formed? I mean, are you having anything like that? Mentorship, maybe coaching, something like that?
No, the political sector, if you talk about it, one party can come and change what's happening to totally revise the whole thing, I don't know. But in terms of uh, simple our own society, our grandparents or my grandmother used to cook on coals, on firewood. Now, if we talk about this, people wouldn't even understand what is there. In these days of gas stoves and air fryers and microwaves, when you go to office work, when you talk about how things were in the good old days in the bank, that you maintained the leisure, people won't even understand. So we moved quite a bit in terms of change of conducting an organization. We didn't have these ATMs before. Then came the question of the mobile. You couldn't earlier also when you had mobiles in the beginning, you couldn't use your bank account on the mobile. Now, majority of people, you don't ask for a statement of account. It used to be a major complaint in their branches. I wonder how many years back you wrote your checkbook. Check. I mean, people have to break their head to find out that. So life has changed a lot. I mean, like if you see even with simple things like payment for the bus, you could pay cash and then take a ticket. No, then it's just not possible in the bus. So life over a period of time keeps on evolving itself. I mean, 10 years back, when the first time this artificial intelligence word was uttered, people said, no, that's artificial. There's nothing like artificial intelligence. Every intelligence is normal and native. So now people talk about AI, there are events held on AI and how to correlate things, how to tackle big data. These were terms before, but people are now using them to improve organizations. If you said, I'll work from home, 10 years back to your boss said, you want your job, come to office. Now working from home seems to be the norm of working. So life is evolving itself over a period of time, and you'll find more and more technology governing our life. I mean, you earlier you could say Siri, get me this, get me that, or send this text to LBC. So life has changed a lot from the time in the last 30 years, and I'm sure now that people are spending more and more money on it, governments are spending huge amounts of money. The other day, US government announced 500 billion. Hopefully, that will materialize. If that comes through, there'll be more and more changes. life will be more and more creative and more evolving in nature.
What exactly the US government is doing? Would you like to expand on that? So they're spending money to.
They only made the announcement, American government, that they would like to use. They gave a grant, allocate 500 billion for AI. They would like to have an AI center. Like we never heard of data centers of the sites that we are having now. You know that they will occupy 4 or 5 football fields. Was unthinkable earlier. Of the fact, considering that even every branch had a small computer in the server in the corner. So from there we have come miles away. We never heard of cloud even 20 years back. There was no internet up to 93. Yeah. So, the way we're moving things like this. So, what used to be a number one uh, technological giant at the particular point of time, if they don't create, if they don't change their business model, they're probably going into extinction, like a Kodak company. Yeah. So, yeah, so if photography, for example, from the people who didn't go from this cartridges to digital to hard disk, from hard disk to this go move mirrorless. So you keep moving from one to another. So companies like this which don't go into mirrorless, they're gone.
Explain me what this mirrorless thing is, because
This is not So mirrorless is when light falls on a mirror, the mirror gets reflected onto the chip that we have. Now you're cutting off the mirror directly, it falls on the chip. Mirrorless. There's no mirror in the camera now.
So the image created by.
The image directly is created on the chip. So it might look like a very small thing. Like if you go to a shop and say, I have this particular camera, the latest of the earlier DSLRs, and do I buy mirrorless? That fellow will tell you, what are you doing? He'll say, look, I just take photographs for fun. He'll say, don't bother. But the fellows who are using mirrorless and the professionals would say that this has got better resolution. And that's a way to go about, because the more lenses that come will come on the basis of mirrorless. You might get a something to connect the two, but you might get a converter, but that may not be so good.
So would there be a recommendation from you for podcasting, video recording camera?
I wish I could one of these days. What to buy? Which camera to buy? I know. Without of course, giving names. I mean, I can't say please buy only Sony, Canon.
I mean, we're not endorsing
I know.
anything.
Only on the technical issues, yes. Yeah.
I really do appreciate your time, sir. I think I had a really good insight and good understanding of what you do, and
Thank you.
and I think you do incredible work. And thank you for doing all the community and social. Especially, I think I really appreciate your work on the women's cricket team. I think that
And I do hope that your listeners, when they see this, would say the same thing.
I hope so. But that's absolutely. I think
Yeah.
I think it's very visible in what you do. So thank you so much for
Thank you.
sharing your story with me and taking the time to talk to me. I really appreciate that. Great.
Thank you very much,
Thank
Oscar.
you. Thank you.